Okay, we will now have a look at player transfers, both instigating a transfer and accepting a transfer that somebody else has made for one of your players. So if we click on the player transfer button on the dashboard, you need to know the surname and the date of birth of the player you wish to transfer. And if you enter that, and click search, you will be given the options. In this case, we can request the primary registration of that player, in which case a transfer request will go to the existing club. This player does not have a secondary club, so we could request the secondary registration of that player. And in this case, the request would also go to their primary club, because that would be a dual registration. In other circumstances, if you were a school who was requesting the registration, if they already had a club, you would only be able to request the secondary registration and it would be approved automatically. A notification would go to the primary club, but the school would also be able to register that player. And vice versa, if a club were requesting a player who was already had a school listed here, then they could request the registration. It doesn't have to be accepted by the school, it just happens automatically. And the player would remain at the school, but also would be registered to play with the club. So the system will keep you right. If you enter the player's details, the system will show you what their current registration situation is, and you will have options to request primary, secondary, or in some cases a third registration. In this case, because the player already has a primary club, the only options to us are to request a full transfer or to request a dual registration. So in this instance, I'll request the primary registration. You're then shown the details of the player before you confirm by clicking the button. You get a notification to tell you that that request has been sent. So you can track that transfer. You can also look in your mail section, either from here or if we go back to the dashboard. So the most recent one at the top is showing as a message from myself, and this is really just a notification that you have made a transfer request. So we click on that and it just says, "Dear club, you have requested the transfer of this player from that club," and it tells you that if it's not been actioned within 7 days, it will be passed to the Scottish Rugby Competitions team. But you have a note of that in your mail section if you need to keep yourself a reminder. Additionally, if you go back to the dashboard and into the player transfer section, as well as searching for a player you wish to transfer, you can look in the transfer history area, and this lists any players who've been the subject of a transfer either in or out of your club. So the most recent one we can see, you can click on the player to view the player's details, or you click view more if you wish to see the details of the transfer, player name, transfer type, who requested that transfer, and the status. So we've only just sent this one off, so it's awaiting. I will give you another example of a player transfer. So the example person that we had earlier, who we made inactive as a player, so yeah, this is the player that we had in our player list. We made them inactive, and we removed them completely. We then added them back into the club with a role, but not as a player. So we can now search for that person in the system. We can see that they don't have any clubs or schools, so you can just request that person's registration. And if we confirm, player transfer automatically approved because they don't have any other club. It doesn't have to go to anybody else for authorization. that person's just added immediately. And if we look into the mail section, we'll have a notification that that transfer has been confirmed immediately, and then we'll be able to view that player in our player list. Here we are. So the other thing to show you is accepting a transfer. So if a transfer request is made for a player at your club or school, you will receive a notification. When you log into Scrums, the notifications come into the mail section, so you can either click here or on the left hand side, and any sort of pending messages that have come in will appear in blue at the top. So if we look at this one, this is a transfer request, and this is the individual's name. This is obviously a fictional person. It would normally give you the person's name. So we have information on the player who's the subject of the request, and we can choose to accept or reject. And if you have a reason to reject that transfer request, if you provide that here, in this case I'll just accept that. So transfer accepted, and again we just get a notification to say that we accepted the transfer, who is now been transferred over. And again, in transfer history, we can view, that's the one that we just made there. List the details about that transfer, and the status is that it's now been accepted. So that's the end of the player transfer section.